Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Set Lusting Bruce, your podcast all about Bruce Springsteen, his music, and mostly his fans. I am your host, Jesse Jackson. We are getting off the Bruce train, but I'm sure he will come up as he often does. And we are in the boat. Are we on the shore fishing? What are we doing, Jen?
That's why I like Phish, right?
Yeah,
Because they pretty much allow you to do whatever you want to do.
that
I
sounds
mean,
awesome.
we could be in the land of lizards if we want to be.
There we go. Yes, my new friend Jen is reached out to me and said that would love to talk about music, and Phish is her favorite band. So we're going to get to that in a minute, but to start out with, tell us a little about yourself.
Okay, I'm an avid music fan. It's hilarious. I was on another podcast about a couple months ago, and we were talking about music, and I brought up Blind Melon, and I just got roasted. Like, then you must only know their song "No Rain" because
Yeah.
it's more about Blind Melon. So anytime I get a chance to talk about music, I love it. Avid music fan, self-proclaimed hippie, yet also very logical, analytical. I am a business owner. I came out of corporate marketing to begin coaching and being a personal resilience practitioner. I'm a mom to a 15-year-old. I'm a wife. I'm a sister. I'm a daughter. I was supposed to be on Broadway. That's what my degree is in theater. And then I realized, because I have had 2 kidney transplants, that maybe being an actress wouldn't be a good way to pay for all the medications. So I diverted. Yeah. And I'm a caregiver for my daughter as well, who has a chronic illness. So music is one of those things that means a lot to my family. It means a lot to me. And you hear a certain note and all of those memories come back, whether they be good or bad, just sentimental. And it it really powers my life.
Yeah, I can imagine. To I always like to start at the beginning. So talk about where you grew up
Sure.
and what kind of music were you listening to, your family listening to?
Great. So it was my mom, my dad, my sister, who's 9 years older than me, and then me. We lived on a gentleman's farm in Zanesville, Ohio, which
Okay.
is near Columbus. And we always had music going, always. And it was a mix, but I really recall, like, mostly 70s soft rock and some
Yes.
country. But then there's also stories of me on our pool table that we had in a living room instead of a couch with a hairbrush or something, singing Donna Summer's, what is it? Hot child in the city. Or my favorite one that my mom tells is when I was like 4 and I was spinning around on my stomach on the kitchen floor singing, "If you want my body and you think I'm sexy." Like, that 4-year-old shouldn't be singing that. So that, but then there's also using the wood burning fireplace hearth as my stage and singing a little Charlie Daniels "Devil Went Down to Georgia." So it was all of those things: Southern rock, some country. My dad is a guitar player. My mom played accordion and sang. My sister said music skipped her and went on to me. Although when I was learning to play piano, she really made me mad because she could sit down. She's so analytical, and
Right.
she's an industrial engineer. She'd sit down and she could count out the notes and play the song 10 times faster than me when I was trying to learn. So that always made me mad. But yeah, completely musical family. I,
So
I don't know anything that we else we did but listen to music and hang out on the farm.
so much to unpack there. First off, I love, by the way, Bruce Springsteen wrote Protection for Donna Summer.
Really?
It's yes, and that I think is always cool. And the other thing, I grew up in the 70s, so when you're and this is no disrespect to your
Nope.
mom, but immediately I thought Mama's Got a Squeeze Box
Yep.
from the
Yep.
Who,
Mama's got
right?
a squeeze box.
That's so cool. That's awesome. I take it I say I can gather people into two groups in this podcast. The people that kind of rebelled against their parents' music. And then when they hit 30, realized that guy, Johnny Cash, might have something. And maybe dad was right. Or someone who just loved it. And then as they grew, they just expanded their horizons and never forget, just embraced and said, okay, now then I love country. I love all this 70s mellow rock, but now I'm going to discover grunge, or I'm going to discover hip hop things. Um, the other thing that I am almost hesitant to do, but if you grew up with 70s rock,
Mhm.
there is a podcast on my network called the Story Song Podcast.
Okay.
And it's where three people, they break down story songs. Jim Croce's Operator. And they go through every lyrics and have so much fun with it. They mock it and make fun of it.
Uh-huh.
And then they take a break and then they actually talk about the song seriously. And they go through all areas, but their sweet spot is a lot of those 70s songs.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Summer breeze
Yes.
makes me feel
Yeah.
fine.
They had a fun one with Diary, Bread's Diary. And you're like, you just left the diary under the tree. What did you want
What
me
am
to
I
do?
supposed
Yes.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
I'll have to look that up.
Yeah. Okay. You mentioned that your sister, more analytical. How
Mhm.
about you? Now, you said you wanted to go to school for theater. What? Tell me
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah, I ended up going to school for theater, and then I added public relations to the mix to be a little more practical.
Sure.
But I've always had, and she's also very creative. She painted growing up and all of those things. But I always think I have been a little bit more of the free spirit of the family. And yeah, in college, I had a heck of a good time actually looking through my ticket stubs, which I think we'll talk about in a little bit. But looking through my ticket stubs, I was in college and came across the very first Phish ticket that I had purchased with for my now husband. But at the time, we weren't even dating yet. But my mom was up visiting she lived in Arkansas at the time. She was visiting me in Milwaukee. And I made her get up super early to go to the Exclusive Company, which is our like local record store here, to get in line for the ticket lottery to get tickets to my first Phish show. And here's my mom. She was, I don't know, 30 years younger than I don't remember how like our age difference.
Yeah.
Anyway, great spirit. Stood in line with me with all these college kids waiting to get tickets to this band that she called. What is their name? Is it Phish? No. College was great. It was a lot of fun. It was a little too much fun. I made it in 5 years instead of 4. Went to a lot of concerts. I worked in our student union and then also in the student concert committee. And so helped bring in different bands, like Freddie Jones' band played at our theater. I'm trying to remember some other ones, not Humphreys McGee, but something like that. A kind of jam Irish band played, which was cool. Parties, like, come on, I was dancing.
Sure. Where did you go to school?
I went to Marquette University.
Okay.
So in downtown. First, I went to Carroll College for 2 years of straight theater and then said, what am I doing? I'm never going to be able to cover all of my medications.
Yeah.
And actually, Carroll was really boring too. It was a small school. So when I went to Marquette, then there were more concerts and parties and you could go to the lake and all that great stuff.
So I'm going to get to Phish in a minute, but I am curious, when you mentioned already in college you had a medication, how early did you need to have a kidney transplant?
I was 15.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, it came up out of the blue. I was sick through middle school. We really didn't know what it was. Thought maybe it was chronic fatigue syndrome or something like that. And then all of a sudden moved from a major metropolitan area to this small town in upstate New York. And the doctor there was like, hey, your cholesterol sky high, lady, 200 something. And you need to get that checked. And we found out I was in kidney failure. So my dad, about 8-9 months later, was my first kidney donor. And I say first because I've had 2. Yeah, my first kidney donor. And I just can't even thank him enough. He got me through all those milestones, high school, college, meeting my now husband, buying a house. We adopted a beautiful baby girl. Concerts, music. I was in a band. I got to perform on stage with the little local band that actually my now husband was into. So it just, I can't even begin to explain how grateful I am.
Yeah, that's amazing. What a gift that he was able to do that for you. And then you had to have a second?
I did, yeah. About
Mhm,
18 years later, my first one said,
mhm.
see ya, I'm tired. And my daughter was then 4 at the time. And my husband's twin brother was my donor.
Mhm.
I say it that way because then usually people are like, wait a minute, why didn't your husband just give you a kidney? No, it's okay. They're
Yeah.
fraternal. I just want to put a little, sorry, honey, you couldn't save my life this time. But yeah,
Uh,
now I'm close to 12 years out from that second one. I'm doing really
mhm.
well.
Good. I'm glad. That's exciting. All right. So when I have a Springsteen fan, I word it this way, so I'll do the same for you.
Okay,
Can you remember when you first became aware of Phish, and what about their music spoke to you?
sure. Okay, this is a fun story. So,
Please. All right.
okay, my now husband at the time lived like down the street and around the corner. And I was dating his best friend since kindergarten
Okay.
around that time. And so we started hanging out because I got introduced to him and he lent me the Phish song CD, a double CD called A Live One. Because he knew I liked music. I knew Grateful Dead and sort of those jam bands, but also listened to I listened to music and musicals and pop and rock and classic rock and hip hop and rap and classical music. And I was in a cappella singing groups. So I was like all over the board. So he handed me this double CD and I just could not stop listening to it. And I don't know, at first, maybe I was, yeah, this guy's kind of cool. I want to be cool, so I'll listen to it. But then it just became, it's just magical. And it's also nonsensical and complex at the same time and lighthearted and free. So it just has all of these intricacies and layers. And most people who listen to it, I think Drew Carey once said that they can pee. I'm using nicer words.
That's okay.
They piss in the ears of their fans and they can do no wrong. Like it's the worst band, the worst musicals I've ever heard. And then he actually went and saw U2 at the Sphere. And then he also saw the 4-night run at the Sphere that Phish did. And Phish made U2 look like amateurs.
Wow.
So I think that's funny. So it's just also this feeling and the community when you're at the concert then carries over when you have their live discs or you have the bootlegged versions that people put out there. And I love the time I wasn't aware that people would write down every song that the band played in the set list. But Phish did. I knew that. I forget the name of the website, but it was just so cool and encompassing. And I think it really started to ignite my inner hippie a little more. And it really just spoke to me.
Hmm. I love that passion, and I love that you've done a good job of articulating it. I preface this question
Uh-huh.
with the amount of times you've seen your favorite band perform live is not a fair barometer of how big of a fan you are. For especially over the Bruce toured last year in 2023, but
Mm-hmm.
2016 was the last time he had toured. So it had been, not counting Broadway, so it had been a while, and there had been people that have never seen him that are massive fans.
Yeah.
So are you someone who counts the number of shows? And if so, how many?
I thought for sure I was close to the dozen mark, but I
Okay.
did go because I asked my husband because we have seen all of our Phish shows together. Like he had not
Okay.
seen Phish before we started that one concert where we
Yeah.
were friends but weren't dating yet, but we saw that one together. By the way, there was a streaker at that show. It was funny. But anyway,
Okay.
6.
Okay.
Only 6. I couldn't believe it. And then I also remembered like, oh yeah, I know that they broke up for a little while.
Yeah.
And then he toured on his own, and then Mike did his own thing. So it made sense. But when I looked at the ticket stub, I said, oh my God, we haven't been to a show since 2004. I'm like, that is criminal. I don't know what, like, I'll say to him, because the big thing they do here in Wisconsin is they play Alpine Valley, which
Okay.
is probably 45 minutes from here. It's a huge outdoor amphitheater, 40,000 some people, grass seats plus regular seats. Of course, when we were young, it was always grass seat because we couldn't afford the under the canopy. So
Sure.
I said, we have to go. He said, we're too old to go. And he said, take that back. But I haven't talked him into going and getting tickets. And what you normally would do is you would just buy every day, like you'd buy the full ticket for the three-day run.
Mhm.
So we never did that, but we were able to do two days of the run twice. So that was
Okay.
cool. And then one thing that brings me back every time is when COVID started, they started playing a lot of their shows on Tuesday nights, and they'd call it Dinner and a Movie, and it was free. They did it free for their fans because they missed the music. They knew the fans missed the music. And so that brought me back, and it was like, and we have a big screen. So it was like I was there on the hill at Alpine Valley, which was super cool. And so I count that as live. And then we did stream one of their nights from the Sphere lately. And yeah, but 6, I couldn't believe it.
It reminds me of the joke we share here when someone says, how in the world could you have gone seen a band 6 times? Because I
Right.
haven't gotten tickets for the 7th. Right?
Yeah. Well, no joke. A neighbor across the street,
Yeah.
his 200th show was one of the nights at the Sphere.
Uh-huh.
I was like, what? And why don't we know each other better than we do? We need to start hanging out more.
Yeah, we need to hang out more.
You'll take me to Alpine if my husband won't go.
That's nice. So I have to ask, how did you go from being friends to now romantic partners and soulmates?
Yeah, he'd say it's because I chased him. No, I had a wonderful relationship for many years with one of his really good friends, and we each decided to go different ways at the end of college. And my husband and I finished up school and got jobs in the same city. And I guess I probably liked him too a little bit. He had long hair, like the big chops. And this was like in 2000, like 1999, 2000. Yeah. He wore tie-dye, and I don't want him to listen to this podcast. He was super cool. And so
he was speaking to your inner hippie.
And right? He was calling to my inner hippie. He played guitar. He played lead guitar in the band, and then I weaseled my way in as a backup singer, and we made a quote unquote CD, and we played a couple college battle of the bands, and then I was just very persistent. And so this July, we're going to be married 22 years.
Wonderful. Yeah. What kind of band? Was it a cover band?
Oh, it probably should have been. No, there were some good songs that they wrote, but my favorite was we covered Fire by Hendrix. Okay. And so I got to be the lead singer on that one. And then what's another one we did? That's the one that's really standing out to me. Mm-hmm. I really wanted to do some Metallica, but they weren't down with that, so we didn't. Favorite Metallica song, by the way, is One. But yeah, it was the band and then the music, and we just had a lot of fun together. And my office right here is connected to another room that's his music room, and he has 7 guitars and 2 organs and a djembe drum he bought me one year that I never learned to play, but I wanted to.
In Bruce's last studio album, he has a song called House of a Thousand Guitars. And I read someone's that a wife told her husband, that's not a suggestion.
No, not a suggestion. Well, I guess my deal with him would be, as long as I can keep buying personal development books and crystals and these kinds of things, you can keep buying guitars. Although I think my collections are maybe a teensy bit less expensive than guitars, but I love to hear him play. Every once in a while, he'll be playing something, and I'll go upstairs and try to sing along. We once recorded Blackbird for my dad and mom as like an anniversary gift for them.
That's lovely
song to sing.
Oh yeah. I
bet
that was great though.
Yeah, they enjoyed it.
Yeah. So are there stories from your live shows, your half a dozen live shows that you want to share?
So I told you already about my mom being in line, and she had no idea what a ticket lottery was or who Phish was. Who's this Zach person you're going to go to this Phish show with? And then that first show we went to, I actually got tickets second row center.
Okay.
Which was super amazing until the streaker
Yeah.
ran across the stage. And then it was, but I remember, this is being sentimental, I remember like in between sets being tired and just putting my head down on his blue fleece, and that was super nice. Alpine Valley is an amazing concert venue, especially in the summer, and you're just with tons of people who are passionate about the music. And I just can close my eyes and remember the summer breeze like blowing on you. It's warm but cool, and then everyone's just dancing in their own way. Phish has a spectacular light setup and show that follows the music as they improvise during their jams. And I just remember being mesmerized by the lights. It's probably my first experience meditating, even though I didn't really know that's what it was, because I just would close my eyes and the music would just carry me. And that's the only thought I would have. So I really cherish those memories. And then there's the fun thing, like his younger brother is 4 years younger. He and his friends really liked Phish, whereas our friends were not really in the scene. So we'd always go with these 4 year younger kids, and we would always drive separate. In this one year, again, 40,000 people at Alpine. And we drove separately and we left at different times. And miraculously, we parked. And then 10 minutes later, his brother and all of his friends piled out of the minivan, parked right behind us.
Yeah.
Which was great. It was great because then we could all tailgate afterwards until you could get out of the parking lot. I really loved, we would dance to Michael Jackson in the headlights while we were waiting to get out of the parking lot. And I don't know, it's just like this whole community that just, you all felt like one.
So I want to talk a little bit about that, because I just last week had a wonderful Nancy, has become a friend of mine, is doing a Springsteen fan documentary.
Oh, cool.
A song about Springsteen fandom. And for the Kickstarter, to support it, I gave away, basically I would be a producer for up to 4 people, that if they pick this option, that I would either host the podcast or I would behind the scenes do everything around.
Wow.
And so Nancy picked 4 of her friends that she did not know before they started meeting at Bruce shows, and they've now bonded, right? There's these 5 wonderful, strong females. And so we had a roundtable discussion about Bruce's fandom and females and how it's different than males and just different things. And we talked about that. I've done over 1,000 episodes of this podcast, and there's no way I could have done it without the amount of how fanatic Springsteen's fans are.
Right.
It is a devoted fan base. But Phish is very similar. So talk to me a little bit about that fandom, that sense of community.
So there's this guy that my husband and I, before we were married, we would always see in like downtown Milwaukee parties or concerts around Milwaukee, and definitely at Phish shows in the area. Like we don't know his name. I assume he went to Marquette. I don't know, but anywhere we'd see him, we just always, hey, nod the head a little bit. Okay, we were going to Allstate Arena down in Illinois. And I was like, oh, wouldn't it be hilarious if we saw that guy? That was his name, that guy. And he was excellent. We're not going to see him. We're not going to see him. I can't. Okay. We're walking from where we parked past a van, and that guy got out, and he saw us and we saw him, and all we did was nod. He's like, yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. Or there's just such a tailgating community. I mean, there are Phish fans who tour with the band all summer. They will make money from concert to concert by selling water or veggie burritos or whatnot. So you get to know everyone just out in the parking lots when you're tailgating and getting ready for the show. It is a full-on festival, even when it's not a festival. And then as you get into the concert, and everyone knows, I'm sure this is with everyone, right? Because even I love Pearl Jam as well. So I know almost all the words of Pearl Jam songs, and everyone sings them there too. But it just seems like a very interactive experience with the band, even with the lights, which sounds really weird, and the venue, and the person who's sitting next to you, or swaying next to you, I should say, and you both open your eyes at the same time and you're looking at each other and you don't know, but then you're just like, yeah.
Yeah, we have that. We'll talk about the Church of Springsteen, right? And there's that sense of community.
Yeah.
And it would make my wife crazy. But if someone I knew online that was a Springsteen fan was like coming to Dallas, I'm like, oh, just stay at our house.
Yeah,
It's
I know
hell, yeah, like I know you.
you. Yeah.
She's like, what the hell are you doing? But I'm like, they're a Springsteen fan, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're all cut from the same cloth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Totally.
We're all there. Yes, absolutely.
I used to live in Houston. You mentioned Dallas. I was in Houston for 6 years, and it was worse than here with the humidity.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, yeah, I enjoy Springsteen. I have a very vivid memory of seeing Dancing in the Dark video. Like, I wasn't supposed to watch MTV, but my sister did. So then I saw it, and Courtney Cox doing all this and the red handkerchief. Very vibrant memories of that. And then I don't know what happened. I never got full on the bandwagon, but then there's the things that I really enjoy. I think I really enjoy him as a person. I just saw a Curb Your Enthusiasm where he guessed it, and I'm like, oh my God, he's amazing. That is so funny.
He was funny in that.
He was super funny.
Yes.
And then also, and I was going to look this up before we jumped on, but I was curious how many songs he penned that he had never really performed. And I know I'm familiar with one of them. I can't remember the name, but it's one that I sing every summer up north when we go up to the lake, because it plays on the classic rock station. But how many do you know of that he penned? And then
obviously Pointer Sisters Fire, he wrote that.
Really?
Yeah. Manfred Mann had Blinded by the Light.
That's the one I was thinking of.
Yeah. And he released that on his album, but it was a bigger hit from them.
Gotcha. Okay.
Patti Smith's Because the Night, he
Really?
co-wrote with her. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. So he's had his share that he's released out there. That's funny. Yeah. So have you ever seen Bruce live?
I have not. I have not seen Bruce. I am loving the poster behind you, though, the orange hue.
Yeah.
That reminds me of, we have a Beatles poster like that in our rec room bathroom that has, I also love the culture of concert posters. It's just incredible. We have our music room plastered with Eric Clapton and Beatles and Allman Brothers and Phish and
Yeah, absolutely. You may want to on Netflix, they have him on Broadway.
Oh, okay.
And it's available on Netflix. You might watch that. And if you like it, you should come back and talk to me about it.
Yeah.
All right. I am going to spend just a little bit about your day gig. So to pull the curtain back a little bit, listeners, Jenn had said, I'm so excited. I don't necessarily have to spend the whole time talking business. But I did want to talk about how you got into coaching and your role in that. Okay.
Yeah, totally. Thank you for letting me share. So in 2015, my daughter was actually diagnosed with a low-grade brain tumor. And at the time, I was working in corporate marketing, actually at Harley Davidson, which was a super cool gig to be in. But about a year later, we started processing the trauma of the diagnosis, and we've been treating it very well for the last 8 years. And I also knew that I was going to be laid off in one of the large layoffs. And I said I had been doing some work with chakra alignment, and the woman who did some emotion code readings for me also was a life coach and was helping me. It was helping me work through the anxiety I was holding from my daughter's diagnosis. And I realized, maybe I'll give this life coach thing a try. So I reached out to a past coworker who was a life coach at the time, and we met up, and I was in coaching certification in the next 3 months. And I never looked back. It was for my career, quote unquote, but it really was for me. I don't know how I would have gotten through a lot of that management of anxiety and supporting and modeling for my daughter how she could manage her chronic illness, even though I've been managing mine now for 3 decades. But that's really what got me on the path. And I was a general life coach for 7 years, and just this January struck out on my own from the company that I was contracting with. And now I support patients and caregivers to build their prosilience or their proactive resilience so that we can have the tools and strategies to support us on this long road of chronic illness, and do it in a way where, like, why are we working so hard to heal if we aren't going to really live?
Yeah.
And so it's getting to that place of I'm alive, but are you living the way you want to live? Are you experiencing the way you want to experiencing life the way you want to experience it? And that's what I help people do. And I particularly am very proud of a workshop series I just finished up with a foundation who supports caregivers of pediatric brain tumor patients. And I was able to work with some caregivers and give them some new perspective and help them along the way of this very long journey that we're on as caregivers for brain tumor patients.
So a couple things.
Yeah.
One, no, I'm surprised how often this comes up in this podcast. My 2015, I was diagnosed with colon cancer.
Okay.
Had to do surgery, and it was the worst nightmare I've ever had. Is I woke up in the middle of the night and I stood up, right? I sat up, and my wife's, "What's wrong?" I said, "I just dreamed that the doctor said I had to have 4 more rounds of chemo." And mine was relatively, I didn't lose my hair, I didn't throw up a lot, but I was just, you felt like crap all the time.
Yeah.
And the chemo I had it, I was very sensitive to temperature. So I couldn't hold anything cold, and I couldn't drink anything cold.
Oh man.
And so anyway, but one of my favorite Bruce songs is a song called Better Days. And the lyrics are, "My soul checked out missing as I sat listening to the hours and minutes ticking away. Yeah, just sitting around waiting for my life to begin while it was all just slipping away. I'm tired of waiting for tomorrow or the train that comes roaring round the bend. I've got a new set of clothes, a pretty red rose, and a woman I can call my friend. These are better days."
Oh my gosh, I am actually getting a little teary.
And what I said, and the reason this is such a powerful thing to me is I think too many people focus not on the journey, but on when I get that raise, then I'm going to be happy.
Oh my gosh,
when I'm out of college, then I'll do. When I get the kids out of diapers, then we'll go explore things. And the idea of it sucked being a cancer, and it sucked chemo. And in a 5 or 6 years later, I had a huge tumor in my stomach, and it ended up being non-cancerous, but I had to have gastric bypass surgery, and it was horrible recovering from that.
Yeah.
But I focused on, I'm going to, quote unquote, enjoy this journey. I'm going to understand that now that I'm off, I'm going to read some of the books I've been wanting to read. I'm going to listen to the music. I'm going to podcast more. And I love when you're talking about that, right? To help them understand that, to get overly sentimental, we don't want to sit there, okay, we just suffer through our life and then, yay, we go to heaven and that's your reward. No, life is the reward. So tell me a little more about that, Jenn.
I love what you said, and it's something that I share. It's actually on my website, and it just came out once during a podcast. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's it. It's don't wait for things to be all better to live better. Like, we can keep waiting. We can keep waiting, but wherever you go, there you are.
Yeah.
So that idea of become mindful, become present. I invite people to find the glimmers, even in those really hard days where you might even be impatient with your kiddos or yourself. Find the glimmer in that day, because it's important as patients and caregivers to fuel our personal energy, because when we have personal energy, that actually fuels our resilience, which allows us to keep moving on this long haul and do it in a way that isn't full of suffering, because pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. And so we can take a look at our energies, and like this music, this helps fuel our spiritual energy, which is that connection to something outside of ourselves, which then can fuel the rest of us.
Yeah. When I did not listen to podcasts, I did not watch TV. Every time I got chemo, I had an F cancer playlist, and I just sat, closed my eyes, and as that poison went in me, I just lost myself in the music.
Yeah.
The other story that I think is really similar to what you're saying, and once again, I would never thought that this would be one of those moments that stands out, but I was in a Weight Watchers meeting.
Okay.
And right after the lady had said, I'm having trouble drinking my water. And the Weight Watchers lady says, well, you should try to do as much as you can. Lady said, what helps with me is I put some lemon in the water and I put sweet and low, so it's like lemonade. And the Weight Watchers person said, no, that is lemonade.
Yeah.
But yeah, she said, here is where we make our mistakes. You want to have a piece of chocolate cake. So you don't eat the cake and you're pissed that you didn't get to enjoy the cake. Or you eat the cake and then you beat yourself up because you had the cake. If you want the cake, eat it, enjoy it, have fun with it, and then get back onto your diet.
Yeah.
Or if you don't, you decide you'd rather stay on your diet, be thrilled that you didn't eat the cake and be happy, be proud of yourself. But we do, and I remember a woman saying that too many times, and I think this is not fair just to say women caregivers, so I'm just going to say caregivers. When you're away from your family, you're feeling guilty that you're not with your family. And then when with your family, you're feeling guilty that you're not at work doing what you need to do.
Yeah.
Versus having that divide. Nope. I'm here with my family, and this is what I'm going to focus on and I'm going to do. And then when I have to be at work, I'm going to focus on that, knowing that I'm doing what I need to do to take care of my family.
Yeah. And I'm going to add another one.
Please.
So let's do the work, let's do the family, and let's do self.
Yes.
Because
absolutely.
I just heard this we went to a brain tumor family camp weekend a couple weekends ago, and the woman who was there talking about self-care, I feel so bad because I said to my husband, I know this stuff. Could you keep elbowing me in case I need? But she said this thing that it got me. We've heard self-care is not selfish, right? We hear that all the time.
Sure.
She ended it with self-care is not selfish. It fuels the selfless.
Said.
And I was like, oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah.
And that's it. And that's for even a caregiver who is just a parent, quote unquote.
Right.
Anytime that we take care of ourselves, we feel guilty. Or anytime we don't take care of ourselves, we feel guilty. Yeah, like you were saying with the story, do what you want to do and then accept that as what your choice is. We have personal responsibility to take for those things and then let it go.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it's just going to weigh you down.
Yeah. And we also need to forgive ourselves when we make mistakes. And also, it's okay to make a mistake and just try to do better, right?
Exactly. I believe Maya Angelou said something lovely about that.
I think she did too. That's well said. Yeah. And we generalized talked about this, but is there some overriding things that caregivers need to do in general terms that guidance you give them?
I talk about the 4 building blocks of resilience, and we work on getting you to a baseline with those before we start talking about prosilience, or practicing and building a plan to be resilient in the face of future challenges. But one of the building blocks is managing energy. And like I mentioned, humans need energy to fuel our resilience. And so I really, especially with caregivers and patients, I invite them to look at the levels of their physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual energy. And we work on filling that first. It's like filling your own cup first, but let's fill our energy first, because then that's what's going to allow us to calm ourselves, which is the first building block. So that self-regulation piece, it's going to allow us to choose the strategy with which we want to meet our challenges. And then the third is solving problems using our resilience muscles or our resilience characteristics. And there are 7 of those. So we can't really flex or engage any of those things if we don't have our energy filled. And so I ask people, what brings you joy? What glimmers do you see? What physical things do you do to help keep up your physical energy? Do you get all those boring things? How's your sleep hygiene? Do you drink enough water? But exactly like you said before, nutrition. And don't forget the joy part.
Yeah.
Don't beat yourself up so hard that you're not like eating salads all the time. And like, you want the cake, taste the cake.
Yeah.
It's part of the small joys in life. And joy is a form of resilience too.
Yeah. Yeah. Play the music loud. Right?
Play the music loud. Oh my gosh. I also love Jay-Z. So when I'm going to pick my daughter up from high school, I'm blasting 99 Problems and I can rap like all 3 of the verses. And then she comes on and I'll turn on like Kiss FM and well, listen to Ariana Grande or something. But play Jay-Z loud, play Metallica, sway in your kitchen to Phish. Get up on the stage and karaoke to Bruce. You know?
Tell your wonderful husband we buy the concert tickets.
We buy
the concert
the freaking concert ticket. We're going to see Tedeschi Trucks Band in the summer, and then I actually got tickets to see Pearl Jam at Wrigley Field with a friend. So I'm getting my fill of live music.
That'll be good. That'll be good.
Yeah.
All right. So with a band as diverse as Phish, are there songs you're chasing? Are there songs you haven't got to hear live that you want to hear?
I was thinking about this, and I think most of the ones that I've really wanted to hear, I have heard, but I haven't heard them at Red Rocks.
Okay.
So I think that would be what I'm chasing. But one of my favorite songs is Chalk Dust Torture. They have a line in there about, I sit in their chairs and my synapses burn. Torture of chalk dust just collects on my tongue. Thoughts follow my vision and dance in the sun. Can't this wait till I'm older? Can I live while I'm young? Can I live while I'm young? I even got to hear my wedding song. We danced to their song Waste that says, don't want to be an actor, pretending on the stage. Don't want to be a da-da. I just want to be wasting my time with you. Such good ones. It's just anyone that they play, you just become immersed in it. Or even before we jumped on, I was playing Chalk Dust Torture to get pumped up.
Ready for it. That's great.
Yeah, after doing the dinner dishes. And I was even very amazed when I heard their song Twist in Target once, like years ago. What?
That's awesome.
They're playing in Target? So
yeah,
but no, I think hearing any of those songs at Red Rocks.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah.
Very nice. Good. What should I have asked you, Jen, that I haven't?
Oh, I don't know. I think this is how music has contributed to my healing and my daughter's healing. Please. We find those songs that speak to us.
Yes.
And even like after her partial tumor resection in 2020, where she couldn't talk with us very much for a week or so, we'd play the songs that we'd listen to at home. We'd really have to listen to the songs that she liked, but did it in a way that brought us together. And she'd squeeze our hand if she heard it. Or if I was singing our song, I always sing to her a line from Pearl Jam's song Black. When she was just after she was born, her adoptive mother thought she would try to parent. And so we had met her and then had to leave her. And I was driving along and Pearl Jam's Black came on and it said, I know you'll be the sun in someone else's sky, but why can't it be mine? And I had to pull over.
Yeah.
So I'll sing that to her. I'll sing Blind Melon's Soul One, because I do believe that we were brought together. We were meant to be together. And her selfless birth parents are the conduit. They're the way that she came to us. And every night we would play her a YouTube station of pop songs that she liked. but it was all piano. And it would just calm us all. And if it stopped, she would wake up. So we knew, oh no, it has to play. But it's so healing. And it speaks to us in so many different ways.
Yeah. I had a couple of years ago a dad on Juniper, the girl who was born too soon. He and his wife, he had older sons. This was his second marriage. And he tells the story he didn't want another child. And he ended up agreeing. And then Juniper was born premature. So he's telling the story that there's all that guilt, right? Like, why did I not? And he told the story that they played Bruce Springsteen all the time and read Harry Potter to their daughter. And what came up is when Bruce was doing his autobiography tour, he was making bookstore appearances and taking photos, and you could buy a signed copy. And they asked Juniper, "You didn't get to talk to him. Is that okay?" And Juniper said, "Oh, he knows me. He wrote me all these songs."
Just
And
got
so,
chills.
yeah. And I know that there is definitely issues about J.K. Rowling currently, but when J.K. Rowling heard the story, she sent a full set of Harry Potter books signed to Juniper, the girl who lived.
Oh my gosh. Oh, my full body chills.
Yeah.
Why did you tell me that story? No, I'm kidding.
No, it's a wonderful story. Yeah. And so I think that's the gift of music.
Yeah.
That's why I love doing this podcast and everything. That's great.
And thank you so much for welcoming me in as a Phish fan. And
oh, this was awesome.
I have some Bruce knowledge, but
yeah, that's okay. You're going to watch Bruce on Broadway and you're going to email me, go, Jesse, let's have you back on. All right. But before I let you go and be thinking about, I want you to give me some final words and how people can reach you. But before we do that, I end every podcast with the Mary question. And so if you're a fan of Jenn's, if you follow her on Facebook or you're part of her community, what that is, Jay Armstrong is a retired honors English teacher, but when he was teaching, he would give his students the lyrics to Thunder Road, and they would read it as if it was a poem. And they would talk about the imagery Bruce uses and the themes they explore in the song. And then he would ask his class at the end of the school, does Mary get in the car? So Jenn, that is your question. Does Mary get in the car at the end of Thunder Road?
So it's so funny that you shared his method in sharing, because at first, of course, I looked at the lyric. I've heard Thunder Road. I have. Sure. I'm not very familiar with it, but I read the lyrics and I was looking and searching for all of the clues throughout. And then I'm like, okay, I'm going to listen to it again with a fine tooth comb. Like maybe at the end we'll hear two doors closing or something like that, And then I reread it and I say, she does not get in the car.
Okay. And why?
Because in the last line, it's the dot, whatever, town full of losers dot. I'm pulling out of here to win.
Yeah.
So the singular.
Okay. So often he sings it on the live version.
Okay.
But about half my people say she doesn't. And the other half says she does. And there is no right answer.
There isn't. Yeah. That's super interesting. And I love that type of thing. I was in AP English in high school.
Yeah.
Got to take a great course at Marquette called The History of Rock and Roll. And our final essay question of our final was, if you were stranded on a desert island and you could only have one song with you, what would it be? How about you?
What was your pick?
Oh, can I hear yours after I share?
Sure.
Okay. Mine was Metallica's One, because it combined the beautiful guitar harmonies, first of all, but then also it had the pieces of classical music. So if you wanted classical, you could listen to that. And then if you needed, like if you're really pissed, you're on that island, right? You get in deeper into the song and the driving beat. But it's just, that to me is a symphony.
Yeah. So I would have to think Thunder Road would absolutely be on there. Probably If I couldn't pick a Bruce song, if it was a Bruce, I would probably pick Land of Hope and Dreams.
Okay.
If I couldn't pick a Bruce song, it would probably be God Only Knows by the Beach Boys.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That one's angelic.
Yeah, it really is. That's super. All right, so another homework assignment for you, since you
Okay.
brought that up. I had a guy once that says it depends. He says if it's the full band playing Thunder Road live, she gets in the car because it's this triumphant end.
Okay.
When it's Bruce solo on guitar, she doesn't, because the
Mm.
way he ends the song kind of stunning. So if you want to listen to those different and think about that,
I
that
would,
might be a fun creative
yeah.
exercise.
Yeah, I'd like
All
to
right,
do that.
Jenn, if someone wants to reach you, how can they?
Yes. Okay. I'm on Facebook, Jenn Fredericks Prosilience Coach, PROSILIENCE. I'm on Instagram at jfredwi. I'm also on LinkedIn at Jenn Fredericks. And then I have a website, prosiliencecoach.com.
Okay, good. And I will include all the links in the
Thank
show
you.
notes. Thank you. Any final thoughts?
No, just as I was expecting. This was a super fun, entertaining, energizing conversation. And thank you so much for having me on.
Jenn, this was a joy. I can't wait to have you on again. Any excuse I can have. You're a blast to talk to. So we're going to end with love is what we are. It is what we are made of. No way we can lose it. Nothing to be afraid of. We can't hold it. We can't let it go. We can't wish it on a falling star because love is what we are. Thank you, Jenn. Thank you, listeners. Be safe, be kind, and we'll talk to you soon. Goodbye.